speaker is Joe Hauser, and Joe's passionate about bees, as he is about spreading the message to plant wildflowers. His interesting and educational talks teach about continuing forage and habitat loss, wildflower and native species protection, and the importance of honeybees. Joe is forever learning and promoting the education of all beekeepers despite their experience levels, along with all community and public members. Joe, get away from there.
It's comfortable.
I know. We apologize. I just talked to them. They are having some issues, and they're having to kick the breaker on, and when it kicks off, they're kicking it back on. They have somebody coming. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be in a better situation. But you know what it's like to get an electrician? Yeah, like pulling teeth. All right. Joe, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I've noticed that the crowd thinned out, so I don't get to do a lot of my stuff. We're going to bounce all over the place while we do this, so folks have fun with me. I spoke to a room about this size here a couple of months ago before COVID hit. And there was nobody in there, 2 or 3 people. And I went over to Mike and I said, Mike, did you tell them I'm coming? And he said, no, they found out anyway. This is what, I want you to ask questions. I want you to interrupt me. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. You guys are farmers. You live on a farm, right? Okay, let's just do a couple of things. I'm going to ask for a volunteer when I do this. This is what it takes in America for your lawn. All you homeowners, your lawn. 50 million acres. 9 billion gallons of water. 950 million gallons of diesel and gas. Plus, the average homeowner puts 10 times more fungicides, pesticides, and fertilizers on their lawn than a farmer is allowed to by law. Hugh, I need you for a moment. Y'all know what I'm into, right? I mixed this up this morning. Just went right out to the tub and poured it all together. Real honey. This is how your honey tastes. Hugh, let me have your finger. Stick that in your mouth and swirl it all around. Don't suck it down. That's honey, folks. That's how you test honey. He's going to pass it around for all of you. By God, if I don't give you a good talk, I'm sure they're going to leave you with a sweet tooth. So we'll do that. Soil prep. I'm involved in a lot of things. Soil prep is, I got this. This is 15 years ago when I was still working in California. Proudly paroled from California after 34 years. Got out. But I had a talk to a group of people, a church group, and they said, how do you plant wildflowers? Okay, I've talked to Mike Johns at American Meadows. I've talked to Bob Cohn at Ohio Prairie Nursery. And that is one of the biggest talks we've ever had. How do we plant wildflowers? Folks, lower your expectations on my slides. Robbie. Wrong button. Hit that button again. There it is. I hit that button. This is what we've come up with. This was a real quick presentation. It still works. Then you have to drive out to my farm. And I live out on a road. I've moved my fences back 5 feet. I tilled the soil one time. And I plant wildflowers. Sherry's give me a bad time. We go through this all the time. I plant wildflowers. That's it for 8, 9 years, and then I'll probably reseed. But that is the extent of my tilling. Soil preps. Just go out and sow the seeds, folks. Just buy that expensive wildflower seed and do it. Don't go to Lowe's and buy the Pennington seed where you're paying $9 because I don't know what a 95% inert material flower looks like. You're buying dirt for that price. You sow the seeds. Herbicide use. Oh, how many are in favor of spraying herbicide all over the ground? Tilling, heat sterilization, solar, we got the whole gamut. This is what sowing seeds breaks out to. Fast, easy, lazy. I raised 2 years ago an amazing crop of Lyme disease ticks. It's taken me 18 months to be able to stand up here and walk. I mean, it hit me short-term memory in any place I had arthritis, which is the whole body. So anything, you know, I have a malaria-like disease because of it. Treats me like malaria. Sweats, chills, shakes, you know, nervousness and everything. It's called LAZY. So fast and easy is great with sowing seeds. Did any of you get that one? Okay. Fast and easy to just go out and throw your seeds down. Cons, the seeds don't have a chance to get down to germinate. They get crowded out, so you get the poor germination. So, boom. Herbicide use. Oh boy. How much dissertation do you want on herbicides with this? Fast and easy, you sterilize that soil. You can just sterilize large areas. I can tell you one of the things, worked the Central Valley of California. It was nothing to spray a 120-acre field before noon and sterilize it. One of the big things I did was working with the almond farmers in February to improve pollination. We talked a group of farmers into letting us plant a 4-foot wide strip around their 20 acres or 40 acres of almonds, and we did a study to see what effects this had on their pollination for their almonds, because what you did is the last week of January, you sprayed the entire floor of your almond grove with herbicide. That way the bees had nothing to work but the almond flower. 4 years, such a successful thing. We were finding anywhere from 8 to 15% improvement in pollination of the trees with the wildflowers just growing around the outer edges. Great. I walked over to Zeb, one of the farmers, said, "Zeb, the program worked. It's great. You're doing all this." He says, "Good." Cranked up the sprayer and all around his farm. Sterilized the ground again. Next year, "I'm getting 19% less pollination." And I said, "Yes, you are." Herbicide it out. Now you know why I don't like herbicides. Great to sterilize the soil, use flats, hillsides, and everything. Then you can throw your seeds down and get going. Poison in the soil. I'm a very bad person when it comes to neonicotinoids. I just sprayed it on my dog yesterday. That's Advantix. Kills ticks and fleas. We add it to our coated seeds. It goes into our soil, so I'm against that. Plus, you have to clean up all your dead material with this because the material will still contain your pesticides. So we have to get rid of the herbicides and pesticides. Tilling, are there any upsides? Good, Sherry's looking the other way. No poisons in the soil. Boy, you can till that compacted soil up and get it all prepped. Seeds are all ready. Great, right? Multiple tillings kill our biologics in the soil. Break it up too much. Gets rid of the grasses, kills everything, sterilizes. Windborne erosion, not safe. Hillsides, have you run your garden tractor on the hillside lately? You know, I flipped one into a pond once. Heat sterilization. This is fun. I went and bought one of those burners, propane burners. Really great. I went around the edge of my pond, just blasting away. I couldn't hear a thing. That noise coming out of that Bunsen burner was just great. Really great. Within a week, it had germinated all the seeds and they were growing again. So, you've done it, huh? Oh yeah, welcome to the crowd. You can get going with it. Again, California, they were soil sterilizing like this, and 22,000 acre fire later. It got away from the guy in his front yard. So it can be bad. Propane tank's heavy to lug around, have to redo areas. One of the things we're finding with forest fires that started with Yellowstone, gives you my background, folks. Yellowstone had the big fires at 88, and oh, we're never going to have Yellowstone again. Within 2 years, the lodgepole pines had come up 2 feet. We're finding out that the only way to germinate a lodgepole seed cone is by fire. The Indians in Yosemite Valley in the 1800s would burn Yosemite Valley clean and then harvest the acorn nuts. We stopped all that. We've had 3 big fires in Yosemite Valley since then. We've now learned that what we do is controlled burns, prescribed burns, and take care of that. Well, we had a prescribed burn in Shaver Lake, California, but you go down the hill to Big Creek, California, and we didn't have a Forest Service plan for that. That was where my house was. It burned. So, solar sterilization, this is great. You put down that plastic and do wonders. I've seen 120 acres at a time with plastic laid down. Of course, they also sprayed methyl bromide to get rid of the nematodes underneath it. Solar sterilized huge areas of West Fresno County. You pull all that up, haul the plastic off to a dump and bury it in a landfill and start your fields there. You know, it was great. Biologics are killed also. Time consuming, takes a lot. You know, this is going to be over real quick, so you guys better have a lot of questions. I don't know how much money I have to pay you for them. Sod cutting. Seen sod cutters? You know, these guys who, you know, go down to these housing developments and they just unload that truck and roll that out. That's really great. I mean, boom. They go out there, scrape the soil, do whatever, lay this down, you just start watering it, hope the roots are strong enough to go down into the soil. Little soil disturbance, but no problem. That's made that far? You guys all got a taste of the honey? What do you think of the flavor? That's real honey. That ain't that stuff you buy at the store. Okay? The bad parts of this is you can only use sod cutters, mainly flat areas. It's hard, and what's it do to our biologics of the soil? Cut it up. All right, our lasagna gardening. We have a lady in our local newspaper who talks about lasagna gardening. Great lady, I think. Flat hillside, you don't have to do cleanup. Sometimes you have to scalp the area first, or we lay enough heavy cardboard down or whatever on top. You got to, what you're doing is sterilizing the growth underneath, killing the energy in the grass. If you get down eventually, some of those seeds will get turned up if you're screwing up. It's not fast. It probably takes 3 months sometimes. You know, you put this down, you may go all summer just trying to make sure everything is taken care of, and then your soil's prepped to go again. Several steps, several layers, lots of headaches. They going tomorrow, are they going out to PI? They can see the garden out there. Okay. What we're here about, right? No-till planting. We're coming back to this as Western Europeans, when we came here to North America, the first thing we did was put the plow to the ground. We've kept this up since the mid-1600s or so. So regenerative farming for us is actually new. We're getting back to this kind of stuff, so it's great. The pros of this is we're building our soil up. My pasture up by the highway, my soil is that thick, and then I'm on bare rock. So I just don't do anything with it. If I get cow manure or something, I'll spread on that to try to help out. I let the weeds grow. So I'm trying to rehabilitate the farm but I'm not planting anything up there anymore. So I'm not having to go and till anything. Again, to no-till planting, it'd be great in the places like Nebraska because it's flat land. You can't do it on hillsides and all that. There's equipment cost, whether you have it or you have to rent it. So, wait a minute. Go back. I'm done, seriously. That's how simple soil prep is. Now you want to talk about what I get into. Get that mic out to that. Mike, thank you. I want to cover.
And it's okay that you got done early.
It's okay?
It's okay, yeah.
Okay, good. I want you people to ask questions about a lot of things because we tie in why plant wildflowers where you guys are talking about grass. Now, I'm telling you to tear it out. Actually, I'm not, but we're getting close.
Okay,
Kiki, yes.
My question is, here in this area, in every area, when's the best time to plant your wildflower seeds? And what's the best place to get a really good mixture where you're not getting the inert materials, but you're getting actual seed?
Honda recalled my truck last week. All my cards to get hold of me are in there. And I don't do social media because I've had some people do not like my stance on pesticide use, so they've attacked me. So I just don't worry about it. The best time to plant is to prep your soil. To actually, for me, I tell people if you've got grass, which is very hard to get rid of, and where to plant all this, I'll go real quick. I like to take a weed eater or whatever, and I just scout that grass down as best I can because that weakens the energy reserves in the grass. Take the iron rake and scratch the surface. Most of the time where you're planting, you'll find compacted soil. Flowers love poor soil to start with. They help bring it up. And I would do that right before the frost in the fall, and then after the frost, the first frost, soil. Pardon? Yeah, let it rain too. I can't. Mulch?
Do you
Not
need to
really.
mulch?
Not really. If you can scarcify scar the soil, knock the energy out of grasses or the weeds that are growing there, you can get a good start because the first frost is going to slow them down anyway. They're going to start going into winter hibernation. So the seeds will have a chance in the spring to compete and probably outdo them. So you can do that. You'll never get rid of the grasses and stuff even after you get the flowers going unless you do all those bad things to the soil. But you give them a chance to start. Give them a good, healthy start. Paper and pencil for Southeast United States. There's a company in Kentucky called roundstoneseed.com. They have a Southeast United States pollinator mix. They have a couple of other pollinator mixes for other areas. roundstoneseed.com. And the one that I like to work with, I've been working with Mike for several years, is AmericanMeadows.com. They're national. If you ever fly over Lompoc, California, out by Vandenberg Missile Lab, there is a 5-acre American flag in the spring. That's their flowers that they gather up. They pick them up when they bloom, go to seed, they pick them up and they sell those as different colors. So, AmericanMeadows.com. I like their pollinator habitat mix. It's a 4-part mix. It has a beneficial seed mix in it for beneficial insects. Cilantro, dill, rosemary. It's your herb garden. The beneficial insects, go to those in your herb garden, plant that in the middle of your garden. Your beneficial insects go there. They spread out to the rest of your garden to take care of the pest. That's one thing they have. They have another part of their mix is hummingbirds and butterfly mix. So good things, milkweed, swamp milkweed, and a couple of others. The bee pollinator mix, and then pollinator mix. American Meadows. Yes, I like them. I'm not here to do sales advertising, but I will tell you I strongly support them. There's others. Right now, though, in the fall, those two guys, probably their price of seed goes down in the fall when they have plenty of seed. So get them. I'm not going to badmouth the other groups or anything like that. It's just I've worked with these guys before. Had a train of thought that, thank God, probably left me. In mixing. Another thing of Lyme disease when you raise all those ticks. Short-term memory, so forgive me on that. But almost every mix that I find for bees has purple coneflower. There's snapdragons. There's a sunflower group that 5 or 6 years ago, I was talking to a professor that we were talking about Nosema serrana, which is a gut bacteria in the bees. And he noticed that the bees would get this, and we'd almost have to go to fumagillin, which now is a controlled penicillin. And he noticed that when he had this mix of Maximilian, false sunflower, Mexican top hat, these smaller sunflowers, in July, when the nosema would start to increase in the stomach, the bees would be picking up the pollen from these sunflowers, and their nosema count would go way down. So it's a medicinal quality of the wildflowers. We talk about weeds and everything else. The bees also are using this stuff to stay alive. It's one of those things about nature. There is a balance, so the bees will know what to do also. So pick up the wildflowers like that, mixing like that, then planting the seeds. Come on, guys, ask me questions. This is, and I saw your hand go up too.
Get that one back over there, and I'll get this one here.
Okay. See which one to ask.
I have 2 questions.
Can I answer them?
I should hope so.
Okay.
One of the things that I do to get wildflower seeds, we've been planting wildflowers on the farm for a really long time, and I'd like to have your thoughts on it, because a lot of these wildflowers, like cup plant, which we have growing on the farm, it costs $180 a pound. Now I realize it doesn't take
Yes,
that
they
much.
do.
You know, they're very expensive.
Yes.
So one of the things that I'm doing is I carry a bag full of, or a box full of Ziploc bags and a shovel in the back of my wife's car normally, because that's where we travel in. And, you know, we see these plants, we stop, and the best time to identify them is probably in their bloom. And if I identify them, I'll hang a ribbon up the road about 50 feet so nobody can come in and take them, and then whenever they go to seed, come back and collect those seeds. Is that a good way of propagating the wildflowers onto the farm?
Very good. I have a lady in a bee group that very good at this. She would go out and come up to my place and pick out the fobs when they matured, and spring, summer, and fall. My flower mix is all 3 seasons, and she would just take them, break them up in the winter, and then sow them in the spring. And she's got a beautiful place, and she just keeps adding to it. Now she can go grab the perennials when they bloom, break them up, and plant more. So yes, you're doing the right thing there.
Okay. Second question. Now, some of these plants can be highly toxic to livestock.
So they say.
That's what they say. We graze them on our farm. I don't really worry about them too much. But do you have any individual species that you would recommend for on the farm type setting that can compete with the perennial grasses?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to stay out of the fields for people, because there is some concerns. I have people who've told me milkweed is highly toxic and all that, and I've always heard, well, if they eat it once and get sick, they'll not go back to it again. My push would be is to go outside your fence line, and I speaking in Ohio, I did this to a group of people. I said, the Amish plant their flowers, along the fence. That way they have the flowers for the bees and the beneficial, pollinators and everything. And it's not interfering with your field and everything. And so that's one thing, is plant the wildflowers around your farms. I'll go into a European study too on that. And afterwards, the Amish guy that was in the conference came up and said, we don't do that. And an hour and a half later, it was a great conversation. He was really enthused about that. And I learned a lot about some of the farming practices that they do. So a very good conversation. But I would plant your flowers, being in a farm situation, plant outside. Oh, and my neighbor was out yesterday with going along his fence row, spraying the Roundup. Plant the wildflowers. What are you killing the grass under the fence for? The cows are going to go under there to get the good stuff anyway. Greg just mentioned that. Plant the wildflowers there. The cows will eat what they want. And you're taking care of the pollinators, which we need. How many, I'll get to you, what does it take to pollinate a blueberry bush? Well, that carpenter bee that we all try to get rid of flies up to the side of the flower and chews a hole in it, reaches in and gets the nectar. The honeybee flies over to that hole, reaches in and gets the nectar. The bumblebee flies into the entrance of the flower, can't quite get in there, so it buzzes even faster and harder and drives its head in there, pollinating because of the vibration, pollinating the flower to get its nectar. Or, thank you for living where we do, the Southeast United States blueberry bee, half the size of a honeybee, just flies right in. Google it. It's there. I did too. That was amazing. Now,
is there a point where wildflowers become invasive and keep spreading?
God, I hope so. Yeah, they can. Probably they'll be well contained. The one thing I want you to, I'm trying to get legislation passed this year. David Hawk is in my back pocket if I pay him enough. How many of you have a Bradford pear in your yard? I can tell you, a guy has a chainsaw, he'll loan you. Highly invasive. The birds eat those seeds and spread them all over the place. They're very terrible. California went through that. This is what you put in your housing developments, is you plant them. I've seen housing developments with 2,000 or 3,000 Bradford pears planted. Walk through it the first day of the bloom, and you won't walk through it until the bloom is done. It smells like cat pee. My wife calls them cat pee trees, so get rid of them. Our bees are starving. We would do studies. Bees fly 3 to 5 miles for food. That's 5 miles. You do the pi r squared deal. That's 78 square miles that the bees fly. We now take those little RFIDs that you buy that you walk out of Lowe's with and sets the alarms off. We glue those on the back of the bee. The bees are starving so much now they're flying up to 8 miles, which is almost 190 square miles now to find food. That thing of honey took the bees 2 million flowers and 55,000 miles to make that bottle of honey that I passed around. They're starving. They'll fly themselves to death. Did that answer you? Take care of you? I would plant wildflowers just to plant wildflowers. They're starving. Am I that boring you don't want to ask questions?
Anybody else have any questions? Hey, right here.
Our NRC's got a deal going on now about wildflowers that,
Yes, they do.
they're paying to you know, it really hurts our area because they're paying more to plant wildflowers than we could rent, you know, pasture ground for.
Boy, I could have fun with this one.
Well, you know, but
It may be hurting you, but it's helping me. Yeah.
I guess.
Work the wildflowers. Our farm, well, one of our farms, had some hillside areas, and I'll talk about where to plant wildflowers, that we could not farm. So our NRC, this is back in the 70s, they paid us to take a couple of strips out of our field and plant wildflowers. They paid us the offset for what we didn't have to till and have erosion for. There's pros and cons to any of the arguments, so I'm not going to argue with you about it. If you get wildflowers in places that you can't grow grass and stuff, please do. Give your insects a chance. That's another thing. Planting on that nice ditch you have along the road that that fills up with water and everything. How do you mow that? If you have to take a weed eater in there to mow, I'd plant wildflowers, be done with it. That's just one less thing you have to do. I would plant the wildflowers up to the fence line. Somebody else may complain to you about that, but hey, what the heck? You're not having to mow, and the neighbor who's got bees is going to thank you. So do that. So I would plant wildflowers where you can. If you've got an NCRS, I'm sorry, National Conservation Group,
NRCS.
NRCS. Work with them. Is your car warranty okay? Mine isn't.
You're supposed to shut your phone off.
All right, any other questions?
That's my auto warranty.
He don't ever listen to what I say anyway, so.
Come on, ask questions, folks. I'm going all
Anybody?
over the gamut.
Okay. All right, Joe, thank you very much.
You guys are too simple on this. Thank you.
All right.